killing them!
The world has become a wasteland. Everybody's key instinct is to survive. And then, there's Max. Sorry to sound like a commercial instead of giving actual plot details, but as I'm about to explain, it would be a disservice to the movie if I just told you what it was.
The Good.
I like this movie's take on a post-apocalyptic world. In fictional situations like this, what tends to happen is people are in chaos, they need something to cling to as a unit if they're going to continue surviving and if civilization itself can survive. And what tends to happen is a cult-like organization takes over everything. In this movie, it's no different, and I really like the way this organization portrays itself. It's very fixed in its ideals, it has a very cultured way of looking at the things it does, even spiritual sometimes. The character development in this movie is probably my favorite part about it. The principle of film is show, don't tell, and that doesn't always mean no dialogue, but usually it means minimal dialogue at the very least. It means that film is a visual medium, what you show should be sending a message. But here's what it does for character. The characters are largely defined by what they do and how they react to certain situations. Some of you out there might be thinking, well, duh, that's what a character is. That's how you know you've written them well. But the thing about this movie that I don't see in a lot of movies nowadays is the fact that we get to understand these characters explicitly through their actions and interactions with other people, how they react to other situations, rather than getting much, if any, backstory out of them. We learn just enough about them to understand them, but not enough to know everything about them, which I think is good for storytelling because as the movie went on, I found myself understanding these people in a basic sense, but at the same time wanting to know more about them. Like, I was legitimately engaged, interested in the backstory of these characters. What's more is I gotta give props to the actors in this movie for being able to pull off that kind of storytelling so well. It may sound simple enough on paper, but this is a very difficult technique to execute in storytelling, and I think this movie did a bang-up job. This movie also looks very good aesthetically. 99% of it takes place in a desert, and in a film sense, it's usually portrayed in a sense of very flat colors, very empty, very lifeless. It's a wasteland, basically. And even though the emotions of the characters and the way the desert is treated throughout the movie is pretty much in line with that sort of thought, the way the desert is colored in the movie, as well as the explosions and other such stuff, there's a sense to it that feels very romanticized, which I think is kind of cool.
The IFFY.
I stand by what I said about the good storytelling and the good portrayal of characters in this movie. Sometimes there are things about the movie that lack specific explanations that feel like I would really desire to know. But the important thing is that the general idea of what's happening is always clear, so an explanation is not entirely necessary. It's just desired by people who want to know stuff like me.
The Bad.
Please correct me in the comments if I'm mistaken, but there are a lot of Australian accents in this movie, and as such, it gets to a point where there's a lot of loud noises, explosions, cars driving, they're yelling in their accents, so sometimes it can be a little difficult to understand what's being said.
The Verdict?
I'm a bit late to the party on seeing this movie because everyone kept talking about it. It's like, it's gonna blow your mind. I can't necessarily say it did that, but I don't go to action movies often, and if I'm gonna go to one every once in a while, I am glad it was this one. This is Detective Steve. Go see Mad Max. It makes the experience of watching an action movie count.